Hi everyone, I am Ashish and I am a part of the Tech Alliance program team. So on this slide, what we are looking at best practices and some troubleshooting tips. There have been many integrations, UREST integrations that have been done and they are available on GitHub. This is the link for the GitHub and you can click on it and you'll see that there are many community developed apps, IBM proof of concepts app as well as IBM verified apps. So you can have a look at it, understand those apps, even download those XML files and make changes to them rather than starting from the scratch. The other important thing is to understand the APIs exposed on the endpoint that you are trying to integrate. So it might be that the file that you have downloaded from this GitHub might have different call points because the products itself are different. So once you understand what are the APIs which are exposed, what is the kind of data that you have, then you are in a good shape to use the files that you have downloaded using GitHub. The third thing is to understand the different actions available. We talked very brief about the actions like the if else, do while loops, as well as some actions like abort. But if you really want to perform something or perform something programmatically, you can go through the documentation of the actions, understand each of them, and then you will be able to explore it in a better way. It's pretty powerful, so we recommend that you go through the actions, understand them, and definitely use them in your workflow file. One of the tips is that you should avoid hard coding and you should use the workflow parameter files because over a period of time, if things are hard coded, it becomes difficult to troubleshoot or even upgrade. So that is what we have found in the field, and hence we wanted to let you know. Once you create these workflow files, while creating these workflow files, you will always have a doubt whether this will work or not work. I'm calling this endpoint, what kind of a data it will show. So during that time, what we would suggest is that you use this curl command and you use this curl commands to test your loops and the data retrieval process at your end. So we showed you many processes like initializing the bookmark, fetching the events, then error handling and all that. In that, if you are looking at fetching of the data, whether the data that you really want to fetch is coming in and whether it is the correct data, we think that curl command would help you a lot. Using it, you will be able to understand if the workflow that you have created is correct. IBM also provides a testing script which is called a test workflow.sh script. This is available in the QRadar box. If you SSH to it, you will see it in the opt QRadar bin folder. And using that, once you have created your workflow files and the workflow parameter file, before you create a log source and then test it, you can actually test it before and see if the complete workflow file is working fine, if the data that you get is a JSON data or not, and what type of data you are getting, what are the fields that are available. And the last one is that we strongly recommend that you use the latest version of the QRadar while you are developing integrations with UREST. Because with every version, there are a few changes here and there. Some things may work, some things, there are defects which are resolved in the latest versions. So it is of no harm that you use the latest version. We also, as a tab team, we provide you access to the latest versions of the QRadar and the latest update packs that are available. If you have any queries regarding that, just let us know and we'll help you with that. So suppose we have used UREST protocol and we have fetched all the data and the data is there in our QRadar. Now this JSON data needs to be parsed, and we have said that the parsing is the most easiest part when it comes to a JSON data. So if you have used a DSM editor, you know that there are many options available here, like the expression type. We have JSON. You might even have a regex, and you will have to write a regex so that, say, if Cabrilla 1 is something that you are looking for, then you will have to write a regex for it. Now that regex may or may not be optimal, and if it is not optimal, then it ends up with a performance issue with that particular DSM that we are creating. So as we are using a JSON, it's just a simple expression that you go from one loop to another. So you mention the endpoint, and in the endpoint you just go to the name, and once you do that, if there is just one name, that it will capture and it will show you as a custom query here. So DSM editor, there are a few videos which are available for the DSM editor. We'll share it with you, which makes the JSON parsing really easy. So developing an extension with Universal REST API. So till now we understood that we have received data, we are able to parse it, but how do we develop extensions or apps using our UREST protocol? So I'm going to explain the complete process. So the first one is we write the XML workflow files for the Universal REST API protocol. We obviously test it. These are the kind of files that we write. Once we test it, the JSON parsing is done using the DSM editor as shown in the last slide. Once the DSM parsing is successful, what we do is we export this parsing logic. Okay, so we export this parsing logic. There are different ways to do that. One of them is to use a CMT tool, but a better way to do it is using an API. So QRadar also has its own API. Using those APIs, you will be able to basically export the parsing logic or the DSM parsing logic that we have created for the data that we have received. Once we have that export available with us, what we'll do is we'll write a manifest file for it for the extension. So manifest file, again, if you are confused on how to write a manifest file, again there are many apps and extensions which are available on App Store. You can go ahead, download it. You can even have a Hello World app which will generate its own manifest file and you can edit it. So manifest file is nothing but meta information about the extension and the app that we are going to develop. Once we have the manifest file and the parsing logic, we zip that particular into a folder. Now, QRadar also has an application or an app called a pre-validation app. Now, this pre-validation app is available on QRadar, using which you can download it from our App Exchange portal. Once you download it, say from our App Exchange portal, you can install it on QRadar, which is a QRadar Classic. Once you install it on a QRadar Classic, whatever the zip file that is generated, you upload that zip file to our pre-validation dashboard. Once you put that, our QRadar is smart enough to analyze the code that you have written or the files that you have written and the parsing that you have done. And on the right hand side, as you can see, that there are check marks saying that, okay, this check is okay, this check is okay, this check is not okay. And it will also give you explanation of why some of the things might be okay or some of the things might not be okay. Once you understand that, you can go back and make changes to, say, the parsing logic that is being developed. And again, once you make the changes, you again zip the new folder with the changes and again use the pre-validation app. Once you use a pre-validation app and once all the checks are, say, okay, then what you can do is go ahead and submit that app to our App Exchange portal. One thing to note here is that there probably is a test in it for signing of the app. That particular check might not work because the app that you have created or the zip folder that you have created is not actually signed by IBM till now. So if that fails, it is perfectly fine. Don't worry about that check. But any other test fails, please do understand where it is failing and then make the changes. So as I said, once the pre-validation app tool is working fine, then you basically submit the extension for publishing. And we have a IBM Xforce App Exchange, which is available. Here, the app or extension that you provide first goes through a validation process. We have a validation team which actually does a QA for it. It understands whether there are any problems or conflicts with it. Once that is done, it goes to our secure coding team, which looks for vulnerabilities and other security threats that the app might present. If it goes through it, if it goes through it, fine, we publish that on our app portal, and then our end customers will be able to download it and install it on their QRadar versions. So, as we said, that what is a call to action for all of you who are attending it? So, the one thing that we want to tell you is that even though the QRadar Cloud Native is being developed and many people or many customers are moving towards it, the QRadar Classic will still coexist for a long period of time. And hence, even if you create, say, a universal REST API integrations on the QRadar Cloud Native, or say on the QRadar Classic, they will be easily portable to the Cloud Native. So right now, whatever you are doing with the UREST protocol, you still need to continue with the UREST protocol on the Classic itself. All these protocols will be ported to our new QRadar Cloud Native. So right now, there on our QRadar app exchange, we have seen that there are many apps which were developed, and these apps were the protocol apps, but they did not use UREST protocol. Now, for all these apps, if one of the app is something that you are a part of it, what you can do is you can edit the existing protocol apps, and rather than using any other protocol, we would strongly suggest that you use the UREST protocol and then send it to us for republishing it. There is also a procedure by which the UREST workflow XML files are uploaded on the GitHub, and those details are mentioned on the GitHub page itself. And for the new integration apps, definitely we feel that every one of you who will be building the next integration apps will be using the universal REST instead of using any other protocols. These are a few references of the GitHub links and documentation